Hello everyone, welcome to this message. As our first card today, we get the Pook card. Um, and then as our next two cards, we get Nellis the Alchemist and the Singer of Intuition. Now it's really interesting because this morning I had this inner knowing to eat simple foods. And specifically, it was like soft boiled eggs, which is kind of fascinating because we get the card of spiritual strength and the card of spiritual strength, the bacon and eggs on there. Um, that was always the food I ate after pretty much every message request that I got in the past, because I like literally needed that afterwards. so um, so that's kind of fascinating. So could it have something to do with um, maybe needing a little bit of extra spiritual strength? Maybe you are using a lot of spiritual strength as well, perhaps, like in terms of that. Um, since this always happens off like after a message request, right? In the past, then it could have something to do with doing a lot of energetic work, you could say. Maybe you're doing a lot of energetic work, and maybe you really need to have a lot of spiritual strength, which is kind of like literal physical strength, in order to be able to deal maybe with all of the energetic stuff, perhaps, because Pook is like our next card that comes after that, and Pook can be electrified pretty much, right? So it could be that there is a lot of energy maybe coursing through Pook's body, perhaps. Um, Maybe there's a lot of energy coursing through his body because he can be a little bit electrified. So it could be that there is a lot of energetic work that you are doing, perhaps, um, and like you need to be grounded, right, in order to be able to do this much energetic work. But loose from that, it was very clear to me that these two very much go together. So the book and then Nels the Alchemist, right? So I do think there's something about that book is incredibly clear. And he has, because Nels the Alchemist looks incredibly clear, like she has laser focus, right? So Nels the Alchemist, she is like incredibly clear, I think, about who she is about to become, perhaps. Um, and Pook is also like a shapeshifter, right? So it could be that Pook is about to shapeshift, right? That he may, uh, like he is still standing still, I think, but it could be that you're going to be incredibly laser focused about most certainly what is to come next. But I think more than that, it could be who you are becoming next. So maybe it could even be as big as, and what I was seeing definitely matches this. It could be that something is hitting Earth, right? So, which means like that there is, I'm getting the chills again. Like there is, you're about to embody something, I think, because this is like a manifestation, right? This is like especially in Pook's, when we start with Pook and the Alchemist and such, like and I do think that now the Alchemist is incredibly clear about who she is about to become. She's going to alchemize something. And I do think that Nell the alchemist, because she is an alchemist, she is going to take a lot of, perhaps a lot of negative energy, and she's going to start repackaging that, perhaps. So it could be that all of this negative energy that has been surrounding you, that you are about to take all of that as like one chunk and like almost like a wizard or something, like shape shifted into your next form, who you're about to become. So there is something, and this is something like an embodiment that's coming in. In other words, you could say it is a divine embodiment, is something that is not of this earth, quite likely, because it is something that comes in, right? So it means that it's coming from elsewhere, what is coming in. So there's something about an energetic embodiment that you're about to step into. And personally, I already noticed this morning, that it was quite different as I woke up this morning. Um, so it could be talking about that already, but I think this is just the beginning, because Nels the Alchemist she sets one domino off and everything else follows, right? So this is just the beginning. So I do think, if you have noticed yourself shapeshifting in any kind of way, right? So if you are like, it seems like I'm a different embodiment of me, right? Like that you are, um, for example, that you hardly recognize yourself, that you are completely, that you are very different, or that you wake up with a completely different mindset, or like different in some kind of way. So, but like noticeably different versus the day before. And but this is just the beginning. Like it's very very clear. So like Pook is shapeshifting, and since we see it as like an energetic embodiment that's about to come in, it is incredibly intentional. So what is coming in is incredibly intentional, and it is like, if you would see this as a download, if you would see this as you being downloaded, if you see it like that, right? If you see it as you being downloaded in some kind of way, then I do think, or more of you being downloaded, more of you starting to become embodied literally on this plane. And I do think that I noticed for myself personally, like just like an hour ago or something, I had this revelation, like this setting that I'm in right now is very highly resembling, uh, like when my entire journey started, and I like, lots of people found me, right? So that moment when that happened, that had the exact same conditions, you could say, exact same, um some exact same kind of life routine and such. So there's something very fascinating happening there. There is a correlation, I think, and something big happened back then, right? And I do think that something very not, I don't know if it's going to be similar, but there is most definitely something very big coming. So you are about to embody. I'm getting chills again. Like you're about to embody more, most definitely more. And it could be a manifestation hitting Earth, but you could also just literally see it as like, uh, an embodiment coming in that's incredibly intentional, and it's just the beginning of this. And it could be something about that you're about to alchemize something in a huge way. So, and then I also had like these runes. Like today, the runes wanted to be used, which is very rare. Um, and we get we get Otala, but reversed. I'm not going to see it as, the usual meanings of Otala. I'm going to see it as what it sometimes means to me, and that is to go against the grain. And it's also very interesting that it's like coming like this, right? So you are about to most definitely, go against the grain, perhaps. So this could be quite rebellious, for example, quite, yeah, you're about, there is some kind, maybe you're about to embody some kind of spiritual strength, maybe as well. Maybe also an embodiment of, you being you and not changing. It could be that, because sometimes Pook represents that, although he is a shapeshifter. Like he oftentimes just stands still and is like, I'm not going to shapeshift for you, right? I'm not going to adapt myself to society. So that's what Pook often represents, but he can also be literally a shapeshifter in the sense that he could represent a metamorphosis, right? So, and he is a highly energetic card. So, so I can definitely speak about energetic embodiment. There's something about that this is coming in. So you are about to, maybe also it could talk about, perhaps, because if you look at it from a traditional perspective, Otala is not just about, like, in my case, like going against the grain, and like in this case, like definitely something like a manifestation, kind of more like an embodiment that's happening. Um, but it could also talk about your lineage, because Otala also talks about lineage. So it could have something to do with more of your lineage, perhaps starting to become embodied, and I'm kind of getting chills, but not completely. But there is something about that, perhaps. And maybe there's something about, because we get this rune as well. It could be that because it talks about like that you want to be strong, but also flexible at the same time. So I do think that you will need a little bit of both. So as to navigate the future, you will have to be adaptable and flexible, but at the same time also incredibly unbending and strong. So these two will have to go together. And there's something here about we get two results. We get two results reversed, which looks, it most definitely already looks like a fence of some kind, right? It looks, and like, what is it? It is an obstacle, right? And it's actually it means that you will not be able to overcome an obstacle. So it could be that there is an obstacle that you cannot overcome, and it sounds negative, but I understand what it is. It's like there is an obstacle that you cannot overcome, and as a result of that, maybe a different kind of embodiment is needed, perhaps, or like more of you is needed. Maybe you could say it like that. More embodiment is needed because there is an obstacle that cannot be overcome. And I think it relates to yesterday, perhaps. I'm not completely certain, but I think it might relate to yesterday's message about, because that was kind of like an obstacle that you couldn't overcome. Like it's just unmoving, you could say. So maybe it also requires more spiritual strength, more embodiment, perhaps. It's possible. And I also find it very interesting that it has nothing to do with timing, because this is Dagas, right? So Dagas, and it was like laying upside down, so it's like not activated, and it's also not applicable usually to me if it falls like that. So, and since Dagas has a connotation for me personally about divine timing, this has nothing to do with, well, with timing in and of itself, actually more. Like it has nothing to do with timing. And so I think what God wants to say is like, you can give this as much time as you want. This is not going to change, right? So this is not a situation that just needs some time and can then change. It's also not something that will gradually change either, because Dagas is usually like a change that happens so subtly, so subtly over a longer period of time, and then all of a sudden you will be like, oh, that's bizarre how much my life has changed or how much I have changed. But so this could also be an indicator of how you are about to change is going to be like literally overnight. The gas is day and night as well, right? Like, so it may be literally overnight, and maybe this has already happened. So it could be that starting today, I'm getting chills. So starting today, you have downloaded something perhaps. So it could be that during the night, because the gas is the day, reversed the night. So it could be like during the night you downloaded something perhaps, and you are about to embody that. So if you noticed some changes already, and they're already quite big, it's going to be bigger, you could say, because it's going to be kind of like a download that will start unfolding. Well, unfolding over time, of course, but like it's also like a download that comes instantly because Dagas also wants to say that. Like it's not like something that will gradually be like, oh, it's bizarre how much I've changed. No, it's like immediately it's clear how much you have changed. And so it's going to be quite uh, big, I think. Um, yeah, and something won't change. You can give it as much time as you want. It's not going to change, perhaps. So let's see. And then you have the spirit dancer, and also there were also some dice, like a Jewish dice message that also um, wanted to be discussed because there were like in these rooms there were also dice and like these what do you call that, like those to play games like in Dutch it's called the game is called Human Don't Annoy Yourself. So maybe there's also something about that. Human Don't Annoy Yourself. And it's kind of like a game to um, like throw people off the board, you could say. And some people find a lot of joy in like throwing other people off the board. So maybe there's a message in that too. Because it's kind of peculiar that those things were together. I probably just put it all in one box. So, which is kind of interesting. Um, so there could be something about that, right? And there were there's something about that. Could it be that you will become an incredible balance between, I don't know, let's just see what it is about. There are a lot of blessings coming in. That's what that means, this particular dice combination. Because I studied like Jewish dice readings. So, and there's something about that there are a lot of blessings coming in. And that people around you, that there are a lot of people around you who are doing well. And there is something about that you have problems receiving something, and that there is a flow that has no container. No container. So it makes me think about this embodiment perhaps again. Like there are so many blessings about to come in that you need the right container for that. So maybe there's something about that you need the right embodiment for that. Hence the download slash upgrade, right? So let's see. Together this gives making something out of nothing. So maybe you're about to make something out of nothing. Maybe also in order to make something out of nothing, maybe you need more of your lineage to make something out of nothing. So you're about to activate that. It could be something that is in your bloodline to be able to make something out of nothing. And yeah, you're about to start something new. And also there is a need for people to start listening to you. A need for people to start listening to you. So maybe this is also because you need to overcome this obstacle and you can't overcome it. Hence, you may have more authority coming in, perhaps, to be able to how, what word is that? To be able to, I want to say accompany that, but that's not the word, I think. Um, all you need is for that. So that's pretty much what this is talking about. And there is something about that there is an equal amount of light and darkness. You could, of course, see it as an embodiment of an equal amount of light and darkness, perhaps. But I think it's much more that the light has to be raised to the level of darkness. I think it is that, because I see dark and light in this particular case much more as counter forces. So I think that there's so much darkness in your life, so much spiritual attack, perhaps so much of that, that you also have to bring the light to that level as well. So I was thinking about that this morning, like that's unbelievable how much power Satan actually has, right? So he was quite surprising, kind of stunts that he pulled off lately, right? Which kind of made me think like that must mean that if you are doing so much, like going that far to stop something as simple as this, then it must mean, I was thinking that, right? It must mean that there is a counter force to that in me as well. So yeah, that was kind of that was something that I was thinking about this morning all of a sudden. So that was fascinating. So it could have something to do with that. That this needs to become equal, I guess. Um, rise to the occasion. That was the word what I was looking for. To rise to the occasion. And then you have the spirit dancer, which is like needing to break through some kind of energetic wall, something that is like blocking you, holding you back, which could most definitely be like a wall like this, like something that cannot be overcome, an obstacle that cannot be overcome, and you need to like push through that obstacle. So as a result, because you need to push through that obstacle, like we need to push through that like energetic barrier with a lot of energetic force, I guess. So maybe that's why this is happening. And then you have the Singer of Transfiguration, which is a card of it can be a card of death and rebirth, of the revealing of you, yes, but like it could be a phoenix moment. So maybe as you're pushing through this barrier, maybe you are going to see a phoenix type of moment in your life. But there's also something very interesting, because sometimes this looks like a dragon to me. It looks I think it's called an Andreas cross, like in the dark dungeons. It sometimes looks like that to me. And the dragon and things like that. So it can be quite dark, this card as well. It's not just the phoenix. It looks like a transformer to me today, actually. Kind of bizarre. And it seems like it has laser eyes. Makes you think about that, like that this is like a laser, that he has laser eyes. And it has a little bit of a transformer vibe. Makes you think a little bit about that. You used to have like the yellow Power Ranger. What's actually red, but the yellow Power Ranger had a little bit like that kind of face a little bit, like with the helmet. So it makes me think a little bit about the yellow Power Ranger. So if it would be like a Power Ranger with laser beam focus, or like there's something about that he can shoot lasers, it seems. Right? Like he looks at something like he shoots lasers somehow, which makes me think about laser focus then, because Nels the Alchemist is on top of that, right? So it could be laser focus. And the yellow Power Ranger is incredibly, if you would see yellow as joy, as joyful, and it could be that maybe you will transform into the yellow Power Ranger in terms of like that you will become incredibly joyful and powerful, perhaps, could be. Um, and then we have the soul shrinker. So maybe that's also why you need that, because there are a lot of soul shrinkers. So you need maybe to become the yellow Power Ranger to be able to deal with this soul shrinking kind of energy. Um, that could be the case. Let's look from like top to bottom. That should be interesting. So we have Pook. So Pook is an embodiment. Maybe also he needs to stand his ground, perhaps, but he needs to push through something energetically. But it doesn't look very energetic, really. So I think he needs to stand his ground to get to push through to the other side of something, through some kind of invisible energetic barrier. And then you have Nels the Alchemist and the Singer of Transfiguration. So Nels the Alchemist is like you're about to, um, this journey is about to start, you could say. This is just the beginning of that. So you may be at the beginning of a death and rebirth type of process, which actually has already begun because it's like a download that came in. So you have already downloaded the new you. It's just could be that you need to get acquainted with the new you. Could be that. But like you have already downloaded it. So it's already activated, you could say. So if you would see it as like a DNA activation, that is already activated. Maybe also with this red, perhaps. Like if you would see it as a blood kind of thing, a DNA activation, then this has already been activated. And she is laser focused. Now the alchemist is it's incredibly focused about who she is about to become. That's what I was thinking immediately. She's laser focused about who she is about to become. And this is set in motion. This is set in motion, who she is about to become. But there is... Could she become the Yellow Power Ranger? Could she become laser focused, perhaps? Maybe she becomes someone completely different. There is something that's about to happen. And then you have the Singer of Intuition. So this like something hitting Earth, something that's from outside this dimension, from outside this reality, this Earth, something like that. And that's about to come in, maybe as a result of you becoming soul shrinked. Maybe the soul shrinking has been a catalyst. So the soul shrinking could have accidentally activated something. Because I did think that like this morning I thought Satan this backfired. That I was thinking this morning as I woke up. Like it's kind of like when he goes too far, it backfires, and then you get a counter effect. So that happened. Um, so let's see. And then you have Mike the Myomancer, who is like observing. Like, what is he doing? Usually he's like the devil in the details today. Like, what is he doing, Mike the Myomancer? It could be looking at patterns. You have detox and like depoison yourself, detox yourself. So maybe you are about to detox from nitpickers. You would see this devil in detail. Maybe you're about to detox yourself of nitpickers in your life. I think that's likely what Mike the Myomancer is doing. And there is something about that this is like a big, because he's about like the micro and the macro. So it has to do with like that things run in patterns. So it could be that you had like a pattern of nitpickers around you, and now you're about to detoxify from a pattern of nitpickers, like a lot of them at once. There's something about detoxing from some kind of a pattern. And at the bottom, let's see, maybe I should also do another dice reading for that, because normally I would get a little bit more clarification there as well. Yeah, so I did that and also got some runes as well. So let's see. We get Tiwas, which means that you are about to be victorious. Like it's kind of like a rune of that your victory is guaranteed. So your victory is guaranteed, and it's also like that rune that they usually put on like their those shields, right, when they went to battle, because it was kind of like a sign, like I'm going to battle, but like the victory is already guaranteed. So it could be like you're about to perhaps go into a battle, or like you are currently in a battle and your victory is guaranteed right now. Then you have Lagus, which is also very interesting because Lagus is most definitely can talk about inner knowing, really. So your inner knowing is activating as well. So maybe you will have a much more powerful inner knowing because you will be needing that to ensure this victory. So that's what this could be talking about. And then we have Feu reversed, so which no, it's not Feu, it's Andus. So that means that you won't be needing any advice, spoken advice. So yeah, so you are going to heavily rely on your inner knowing, and you're not going to be listening to spoken advice by others. That's what that means. There's wisdom inside you, so you're not going to listen to traditional wisdom nor to spoken advice from other people. And then Atala is here, but it's reversed now. So you're not going to be, as well in this case, like you're not going to be going against, you're not going to be going with the flow, you could say. It's also very interesting. Like you are most definitely going your own direction, which could creatively could be a way of God saying you are about to make a free will choice, perhaps, because you're going to be doing something that is most definitely not in alignment with um, how society does things. But more than that, I think it's not even in alignment with even your blueprint, perhaps, or it's not in alignment with how things were supposed to logically go based on cause and effect. So there's something about that. Whatever is going to come next, it's not going to be like this is logical. So if other people would look at that, they would be like, if I see this course of events previously, it's not very logical that this would happen after. So there's something about that that's about to happen, which makes me think that this could be a free will choice because there's inner knowing here, and I see free will as divine will, right? So so let's see. So with the dice reading, we still have blessings. You're going to have to work very hard to achieve those blessings because there is the evil eye around you. Maybe people are cursing you. There could be a lot of bad external influences as well. And because there are so many negative external influences, which could even be an indication based on this dice divination, right? So it could be dice interpretation. I like to use that word, dice interpretation. It could be that could be an indicator of perhaps being cursed. So it could be that either people are cursing you, there could be a lot of evil eye around you, or it could just be that there are a lot of bad external influences around you. But at the same time, there's also a lot of blessings, and you need to work hard to achieve those blessings. So I do think, like, taking all of those things in account, that you just need to be able to focus on working to be successful and to achieve those blessings, and that there are just too many bad external influences to be able to do that, which is probably why you are going to start listening to your inner knowing and ensure your victory as a result of that. So, let's see. Yeah, authority as well, the throne authority. Yeah, I do think you're likely going to be successful as it relates to work, and you might be become like you might exude more authority coming in the future. So you might be more like at the throne of your life and like exude much more authority as you're doing right now, which is what because it was already suggested, and also this dice interpretation also points to that you are likely going to be much more expressing much more in I wouldn't say an authoritative way, but like you will have much more authority in you will be much more at the throne of your life and have much more authority. Um, so let's see. So maybe that's also part of that embodiment, perhaps. So I do think that you were amongst people that actually weren't like bad external influences, pretty much. So you were like, could be like, perhaps you were the only good thing in a negative environment, for example. Um, Something like that could be the case. I think also what wants to be said is that it might have served these people, perhaps, or if we look at it more positively, which was actually my first interpretation, it is that you were already very much embodied. So I think that's actually the message. You were already very much embodied, that you were already showing very clear boundaries, maybe very, very strong boundaries, even maybe too strong boundaries, because that would be indicated by this dice interpretation. So you may have had even too strong boundaries almost, but at the same time, maybe you need even more of that. Maybe you need even stronger boundaries, perhaps. Or you could just talk about that you just need to work, that you need to get to work because there are blessings. You need to start getting to work towards those blessings, and at the same time, you may be in an environment where you are too good for the people who are around you, perhaps. Um, because like the dice interpretation talks about that you are a rose amongst thorns, right? A rose amongst thorns makes me think about that you may be the only good thing or the only good person in a certain situation or the only contributing positive factor or whatever it may be, right? However you want to see you being a rose amongst thorns, well, at the very least you are surrounded by a lot of bad external influences and you need to get to work. So I think that that's what this is talking about. So as a result, you're going to have a very strong inner knowing, and you're not going to be taking advice from people. You're going to not go with societal expectations, not going to go with the flow, even, which may also indicate not going with the flow may mean an enormous amount of focus, perhaps being laser focused. So that could also be changing, perhaps. Or it could just be that you're about to take some kind of a pivot that was totally not expected. Um, and which could most definitely be extra indicated by this because this says animal friend structure and predictability, and then taking the sylph. So that's interesting. So maybe it could be if the course ahead will be incredibly predictable, then you're going to be looking at that based from a vision, perhaps, because she's looking at things from a higher perspective, right? So it could be that she is looking from above on her own predictability, on her own structure. So this means vision. So either she is, you are going to be very predictable, and it's going to be based on a vision, laser focus, in other words, or it's going to be that you are about to take a 360 turn in terms of whatever is going to happen next is not going to be predictable. It may not even hold any kind of structure. Could be because the flow, usually when you start a flow, it means like you settle into some kind of a energetic state, and like you keep flowing within that bandwidth, you could say. You like, for example, you can be quite spontaneous, but before you know it, like you have some kind of a structure in place, and then it starts moving moving you. So it could be that you are about to not do that anymore, that you are about to could even be that you are about to be different every single day. Could be. It could be that you're almost definitely not in alignment. So it could perhaps even, like in the biggest sense that I can possibly see, it could be that you are about to um, make free will choices on the daily, which means if you are about to like make a choice that is not of this earth, a choice that's not of this earth, a choice that's not of this earth, right? Like that could build massive momentum if that's the case. Because like even one free will choice, like true free will choice, is like huge. If you then go start stacking all of those free will choices, then that's yeah, that could be vague, right? So it could be something like that because Nels the Alchemist sets dominoes, right? So one domino after the other. So maybe we'll know exactly what to do, maybe as well because of this download that came in, perhaps. But it's an embodiment of you, so you will know what to do. But every step of the way will be a free will choice, perhaps. So shall we look at the Bible quickly? Let's see. When Selbalat, this is opposition to the rebuilding. Ah, fascinating. It's Nehemiah 4 that I'm looking at. Um, when Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, rebuilding the wall, that's funny. Like, I want to get that room, but it's gone now. That was like two results, right? The wall, the obstacle that cannot be overcome. So when Salvat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, we became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates and the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing? Well, will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day?" Finish in a day. That's fascinating because the God was talking about that this will happen overnight, right? Will they finish in a day? So it could be that you are going to be moving so fast, right? Like this move is like poof from day night until day. So as a result of that, like, are they going to rebuild that within? It's not possible, right? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble, burnt as they are? So it could be that they are not going to be able to rebuild this structure, maybe as well, this wall. Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What they are building, even a fox climbing up on it, would break down their wall of stones. Hear us, our God, for we are despised. Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders." So it could be that you were a builder, perhaps, and that people were insulting you. Could be. So we rebuilt the wall till all of it reached half its height, for the people worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, the Arabs and Ammonites, and the people of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead, and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. Gaps being closed wasn't a prophecy, I think, but closing the gap. Something about that. I will share it on the posts. Um, let's see. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. So maybe everyone was plotting together to come against you, right? And to stir up trouble against you. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we can't rebuild the wall." So it could be that you have reached a certain point, and maybe that there was a moment where your strength was about to give out, your spiritual strength, right? So you needed more. Um, there was so much rubble that we couldn't rebuild the wall. So maybe there is something about that you need to be able to crush that wall, perhaps, right? To crush through that wall because there's too much rubble, perhaps, to rebuild that wall in another sense, right? You understand what the metaphor means. Also, our enemy said before they think you were building, right? So it could be that there was so much rubble that you couldn't rebuild, but you were building. Also, our enemy said, before they know it or see us, we will be right there among them and will kill them and put an end to their work. So it could be that Satan was trying to put an end to your work, and maybe you are about to show that there is a counterforce in you, perhaps. Um, then the Jews who lived near them came and told us 10 times over, wherever you turn, they will attack us. So maybe whatever turn you were about to take, maybe you were at a stalemate, perhaps, right? Where there was no way to overcome this obstacle. And as a result, more embodiment of you is needed to crush through that obstacle, perhaps, to show like, okay, Satan, you can do this to me, but I also have a counterforce to that, right? So it could be something about that. You need a counterforce to the attacks because there is no way forward otherwise. Therefore, I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families with their swords, spears, and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes." When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, and each to our own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. So it could be that you're about to work, but you also need a big shield up, perhaps, right? The officer posted themselves behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did their work with one hand and held a weapon in the other, and each of the builders wore his sword at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. Then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, "The work is extensive and spread out, and we are widely separated from each other along the wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, join us here. Our God will fight for us." Ooh. So we continued to work with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. At that time I also said to the people, what was it? So we continued the work with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn till the stars came out. At that time I also said to the people, "Have every man and his helper stayed inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve us as guards by night and as workers by day." So maybe you will be guarded during the night and you will be working by day because there is work you need to get done. Because there are blessings to be achieved, right? So let's see. Let's look at Kierkegaard. Like this book, it has to be delivered back into the libraries very soon. So we will have to get another book. So let's see. This is about Epictetus. Epictetus. Um, what I would like to say as a counter, like counter words, right? What I would like to say as counter words is that you notice that he is a slave. The most unbelievable in this situation is that he knows that he is a slave and understands that this is going to be just the way it is, right? Like business as usual, the way it is forever. Um, and this is causing such a pressure upon him that he has discovered the pride of stoicism. But we were not raised this way. We were not we did not start with these horrendous things. Certainly only the so it could be horrendous things or like shocking things. Certainly all the shock um, that caused the doubt, the hesitation, is able to bring a person to its absolute maximum heights. Well, naturally, there are a lot of people who are like who would go under. Um, but it can also be useful for a person to be treated this harshly, which is kind of like what I was saying, right? In these first words of Epictetus, some things we have in our control, we have in our power, and others we do not. I hear in that I hear a slave, and so understood there lies a horrendous passion in these cold words. You hear the slave mm, like under his chains, and you hear the that right. I don't know what it's called. Um, from the time that he learned it. Okay, let's see. So it could be that God wants to say like that it's not true that some things lay in your power and in your control and others do not. So it could be that God wants to say like everything is within your control and everything is within your power, and that you're about to realize that you are not a slave, and that it's not a made up thing that you will always be a slave and that's just the way it is. And as a result, you will just have to quietly discover stoicism, like be calm under and collected under anything. So it could be that God wants to say, like, you were not raised that way, in the sense, like, you were not meant to be this way. And that that you were brought to your absolute maximum height, and that that there are many people, like I said, a lot of people, heel veel mensen, a lot of people that would have gone under if they were to be under this kind of pressure when they are treated this harshly, right? But some people actually, for some people, this is actually useful. So I do think that that it backfired, that it was useful for you to be treated this harshly, and that you didn't go under, but you were brought to your absolute maximum height as a result of that. Um, and that you understand that you are a slave, but you were not raised that way. You were not meant to be a slave. And that all things fall under your control and your power, perhaps. That you don't have to sigh, that's the word. That you don't have to sigh under your own chains, or hear the sigh of the time back then upon which you learned that. So in which you learned that. So you won't be sighing anymore in the future. Just like a slave needs to learn this, you will need to learn to make the difference your own. The difference is accurate, but the passion upon which one makes this his own varies greatly. More certainly today we are old wives, old women, or something like that, in correlation to the people of the ancient times. And unfortunately, this could be the reason why we have not become unhappy enough, because the pressure from the outside isn't is only very little, right? So I think in my case that was not most definitely not very little. Like if you could be talking about that, if pressure is very little, um, we do not possess the character ourselves, and we do not possess the character within ourselves to make ourselves unhappy. Still, character can be purchased expensively. Character can, in a sense, be bought by the cost of the character. So I guess you could pay a lot of people to put you under this kind of pressure, perhaps. To so it could be for you could force yourself into this kind of character, perhaps. But I think like if you're watching this, you are likely put under so much pressure that a lot of people would have caved in. But it produced character in you, which is precisely what the Bible is talking about, right? The character to be able to be unhappy, apparently that we have. So maybe you now have the character within yourself to make yourself unhappy, and that you want to have a reason, perhaps, that you become unhappy enough due to outside pressure. So I do think that they were a catalyst. In other words, they were a catalyst that they pressured you so much that something had to give, that something had to change, and then something changed, right? So I'm wishing you a very beautiful day ahead.